Feliz Navidad! It's week 16. Fantasy football semifinals. You're here, you're watching, you're in it. Vamonos. We're getting into it. We got Trevor Lawrence on the concussion protocol. Could he play? Jonathan Taylor. Is he ready to come back and handle a big workload? Our compadre, Isiah Pacheco. Again, another one coming back. We'll talk some Tyreek. We'll talk some Pittman. Hey, let's get into it because this is the Injury Prone Podcast. This is Jorge Martin. You can find my work at Yahoo Fantasy. But right here, compadre, el doctor Edwin Porras. Feliz Navidad y prospero playoffs, mi amigo.
Yeah, Feliz Navidad. I got 3 playoff teams going right now. It's less than I was hoping for, but we're going. And I appreciate you coming with the energy. I was complaining and moaning and bitching when I got in here about how burnt out and tired I am. I shouldn't complain. Not everybody gets to talk football, talk ball for a job, for a living. For you, that's awesome. For me, I'm going to try to bring as much energy as possible. This is semifinal week. Unless you're in a weird league where you're going week 18, don't do that. Please switch that out. Get out of that league if you're doing the championship in week 18. So week 16, yeah, we'll definitely talk about our compadre Isiah Pacheco, and we will get into it. Happy holidays, everybody. If you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays to whatever you celebrate. If you celebrate nothing, continue to celebrate nothing because you're listening to Fantasy Football Podcast right now. You can continue to celebrate whatever you want, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we're celebrating fantasy football championships.
Yeah, vamonos, and make sure you're giving us a like and subscribe because you know what, the content's not going to end when the season ends. Okay, we're gonna have some great off-season content coming your way, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good, and also make sure get the latest and greatest. Go to the patreon.com/injuryprone. Get in there, get the great information. So, compa, you know what? We got him on we've got him on the thumbnail. It's Trevor Lawrence, Fabio Football, also known, just best hair in the NFL right now. I don't know who's second, but dealing with the concussion protocol on top of the sprained ankle. The concussion protocol may knock him out of this week. We've seen it. Brock Purdy's come back from it. CJ Stroud still, it's still dealing with some effects. Every brain is different, like you said all the time. Kind of what are we looking at here in what could be a smash spot if he plays?
Yeah, so this is a really tough call. As we've seen with other quarterbacks, it doesn't always coming back in 1 week doesn't always mean that you're going to have a re-injury or you're going to play poorly or whatever the case may be. But we do see that since 2018, there is a 60% increase in turnover-worthy plays for quarterbacks after they come back from a concussion. That's probably for a lot of different reasons. Is it because maybe they're a little more cloudy? Okay, maybe. It's also probably the fact that they weren't able to practice at full tilt for the game plan with the team as well. It's probably a little bit of that. But there is some of that concern and that worry, right? I know that all Trevor Lawrence has done is come out and perform over the last several weeks, a month at this point. He's really been putting up numbers that you want. But there is still, if he does pass, which by the way, it is not a guarantee that he passes protocol as of now. You're going to have to continue to check back. But if he does pass, there's still a 33% chance that he re-injures, has another concussion. That is very possible. I'm not going to say it's likely, but it's possible that he takes another hit and has to go out the same way Derek Carr did, right? Derek Carr's happened a little bit later, and that's kind of interesting, right? Because you tend to think if you're going to have a concussion recurrence, it'll happen much sooner after the initial concussion, and that can still happen, right? What happened to Derek Carr can happen to Trevor Lawrence. So that's needless to say. In 2 quarterback leagues, if he's active, you're probably throwing him out there. If you're in a semifinal do or die game and you just need points, you don't necessarily need like a big performance. Maybe Trevor Lawrence has been weird. Even in some of my sharper leagues, I've seen him dropped in single quarterback leagues. Maybe you picked him up off the waiver wire. Maybe you started, I don't know, Dak Prescott and then ended up picking up Trevor Lawrence, and you have both of them. That in that case, you wouldn't necessarily start Lawrence. But what I'm trying to say is I would go with another option if you needed absolute guaranteed. He's going to play. He's going to put up points, and his risk isn't above average. Trevor Lawrence re-injury risk is above average.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm actually facing that in a dynasty semifinal where I've got Lawrence as my single QB. I picked up Joe Flacco, also known as Jose Skinny, got him in just in case. Just in case. The thing is, this is a great matchup if he plays, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have allowed the most passing yards to quarterbacks this season, and I mean it's a great spot. Plus, on the other side, the Jaguars have I think are third most. So I mean this could be a shootout very much in Florida. The weather's going to be nice, and the game's going to be in Tampa. I was checking the weather. There should be no wind. It should be temperatures in the 70s. So those folks in the Northeast are going to be wanting to move after they watch this game. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I mean, let's keep an eye on those reports. But again, like you said, not to come back too early, and I think it's a great thing that and we've talked about it, that CJ Stroud sat out last week just to make sure everything is okay. So, looking at the practice reports, Jonathan Taylor. He's back at full practice the last 2 weeks. I even saw a video today where he wasn't wearing heavy padding. It looked like he was wearing a glove where he was doing a drill. And Zack Moss has been DMP both days. Could we be just looking at straight swapping and a big workload for Jonathan Taylor?
The way that the Colts have played the Jonathan Taylor situation since the beginning, since he came back in week 5, they've shown that they weren't just going to drop him in and give him a full workload. I would imagine somewhere in the neighborhood of that split in like the week 5, week 6-ish type split that we saw with JT and Zack Moss, because both of them are banged up. And let's be honest, JT's not 100%. That thumb is still stiff. It might even still be a little bit painful. He's still going to try to protect it at all costs. They don't want anything to happen that's going to make him do this. For the podcast audience, I'm bending my thumb down. They don't want to put any stress through that ligament. So he'll be wearing a glove, I'm sure, if not a lot of protective padding underneath or a brace of some sort. So pass catching, I will be surprised if there are like a significant amount of targets that go to Jonathan Taylor specifically. Not that they necessarily always draw targets for him in the first place, but just catching that ball is going to be hard. And is this game in Indy? Where's this game at?
This game's in Atlanta. So
games in okay, so domes. It doesn't really matter the way. I was gonna say if it's colder, like that's gonna make things even tougher on that hand and that wrist. But it's in a dome, so that won't necessarily matter. But I'd be surprised if they give him a full workload. Ball security is going to be an issue, but ultimately, if you have Jonathan Taylor, you're probably firing him up. I wouldn't expect anything more than like RB2 numbers with RB1 upside, obviously, as usual. I don't know what you think though.
I did put him as one of my green light players in the running back report that was published today, and actually I made him the picture, the guy in the picture, because it's the matchup, and when you're looking at it, the last 2 weeks, the Falcons have allowed over 100 yards to two different running backs. So I'm looking at that, and I'm just thinking it's a smash spot for him. I do look at the fact that what you were saying, that he won't get a lot of targets, and he wasn't getting a lot of targets before he got hurt. He was getting a heavy amount of rushing attempts, but just 1 or 2 targets, 1 or 2 receptions a game. So not a lot of work in the passing game. So, and obviously he's not going to be. I don't think I would be like, it would be malpractice if they put him out there to block. So just get him out there to run. I think he could get home for you with a long run or 2. That's what I'm looking at, and maybe he could get a touchdown. So hopefully I'll look at that. But it looks like Moss is no Moss this week, right? Just with 2 DMPs already, and probably a third one on the way.
Yeah, with Moss, I'm a little surprised. They did say that he was going to try to give it a go. It's a weird thing. Ian Rappaport's calling it an arm injury. Schefter is calling it a shoulder injury. And it's officially listed on the injury report as a forearm injury. So he didn't practice today. Is that what you're saying?
We haven't seen the practice report. He's been DMP the first 2 days of the week.
Okay. So I don't know. This is kind of up in the air. So obviously, if Zack Moss plays, he's like a desperation flex, whatever, RB3. Obviously, I would say. I do think he has a chance, considering he is listed with a forearm issue, and that's probably just a re-aggravation of the previous one. If his grip strength is back, I would expect him to be able to go. But if not, I mean, your Jonathan Taylor call is going to look even better, right? They're gonna have to feed him. What are they going to do? Give the ball to Goodson? I mean, maybe, but they're going to probably put Jonathan Taylor out there, and they're going to probably give him the ball. So with Zack Moss, there's not a lot of data out there. We haven't heard a lot about what's going on. I imagine that if he can't get his grip strength back, though, he won't be out there. At this point, I would just call it a 50-50. If you need Zack Moss, which you're probably in pretty dire straits if you need Zack Moss, but if you do, just make sure you're checking in before the actives and actives.
Yeah, absolutely on that one. So, but yeah, I think if Moss is not going, I think JT is a smash play this week. So, well, let's go to our compadre puertorriqueño, Isiah Pacheco. I love saying that name the correct way. Now this is now shoulder injury that knocked him out of 2 games. Andy Reid has come out already saying that it looks like he's going to play. So it's a great spot against the Raiders, one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. But could this be? I mean, he also had a shoulder injury coming into this season that it didn't slow him down at the beginning. But what kind of outlook could we be getting, and could he be a threat in the passing game, considering that you need your shoulders to do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to know, but for Isiah Pacheco, which by the way, you and I dropped the ball. He hasn't really been in the injury realm conversation, so that's a good thing. But Isiah Pacheco is of Puerto Rican descent from his father's side. We did Wikipedia this; it is confirmed. So shout out to Isiah Pacheco. So with the shoulder injury, what probably happened, and I was actually talking to one of my friends now. I consider him a friend, Dr. Deepak Chona, SportsMD Analytics, I think on Twitter, X or whatever it's called. He was saying that he thinks there's a chance that what the part of the hardware that not hardware, but the stitch essentially that they used in his shoulder may have came loose. They may have had to go in there, clean it up, take it out. It's not that severe of a procedure for an NFL football player who's young and healthy otherwise. So I do expect him to be out there, maybe wearing some sort of brace, like the device that Dalvin Cook wears, potentially. You're correct. It is hard to really catch the ball or expect a player to lift their arms up and be super involved in the passing game the way Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's apparently a wide receiver 1, is with that catch that he had last week. But I do expect him to have a relatively decent workload. We do know that Jerick McKinnon was a DNP today or yesterday at least, so they might have no choice. They might have no choice other than to potentially check it down to Pacheco when they need to. But I wouldn't expect a ton of necessarily, like design run or design passes or anything like that. But I do think that he's at a pretty average risk. I would say moderate re-injury risk going in, just considering he runs with so much malice in his heart. He's just making contact all the time. But other than that, I'd fire him up. I'm firing him up in a semifinal game that I need. I just played against Chris Olave, so in that league, I'm going to need every point that I can get. I think Isiah Pacheco can potentially get there for you.
Everyone. Well, on that one, I mean, when it comes to him, it's a great matchup against the Raiders. It's Monday. You've got to take the extra time to wait on that. So have a backup plan. If you haven't picked up Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Elaire, as we could also call him, if he's available in your league, grab him as just in case. You never know. But yeah, I think that's a big one. And again, Jerick McKinnon, as you mentioned, was DNP at practice. So you never know with him. I mean, he's an older running back. Maybe maybe they just give him a lighter workload or something like that. And this is a game that could get away from them really quickly because they could just blow out the Raiders. And CEH is playing by the second half anyway, so just so that they give Pacheco a little exactly. So hopefully by that point, Pacheco, nuestro compadre Pacheco got you home on that one. So. All right. Well, not bearing the lead, but going a little south of where you are, Tyreek Hill in Miami. So, that you have talked so much about ankles over the years, about injured ankles and stuff like that. I mean, they held him out last week. Apparently, he fought to play last week and was still a game time decision. Now coming into a big game against the Cowboys. This game will be in Florida. The weather's expected to be nice in the 70s, not expected to be wind, so it could be perfect football conditions. It won't be cold where it could excuse me, where it could where it could actually mess things up. But when it comes to this ankle, dígame, what do you think?
So it's a semi nuanced conversation with Tyreek Hill. If you have him in fantasy football, and again, I have him on that same team that I just mentioned where I'm up against Chris Olave, I'm starting Tyreek Hill, right? So let's start there. You should not bench Tyreek Hill. And that's not because of some old trope of just, start your studs. Like, no, there are reasons that, and this is an entire conversation. Maybe we can have a conversation in the offseason about it. Start your studs, I think, is actually a smaller pool of players than most players assume. I think that start your studs is like players who are performing like first rounders, period. Like those are the guys that can fall into the start your studs category. And Tyreek Hill has to this point. I can give you all the numbers, 36% dip in targets per route run, like a 34% dip in fantasy production in the first week back for wide receivers after high ankle sprains. But, none of that really matters for fantasy football purposes, right? And I know I've seen people say, he's back. It couldn't have been a high ankle sprain. That's the other thing. A high ankle sprain does not mean that it's a death sentence. Just like you can have a lateral ankle sprain, that's a grade 1, a grade 2, a grade 3. The same thing works for high ankle sprains. People hear high ankle sprains and they view it as this injury that's just, it's the end, right? A concussion. There's no grade of concussion. It's just a concussion. That's not how a high ankle sprain is. You can have minor, moderate, and severe high ankle sprains with additional structural issues. That's very nuanced, right? It's not just you have a high ankle and you're dead. That's not how it goes. So Tyreek Hill coming off this minor high ankle sprain, start him in fantasy football. I saw something ridiculous. I was talking to Ryan Heath, a contributor over at Fantasy Points. He saw a receiving yards line for Tyreek Hill at 112. I will probably take the under there. If I find a line that is 112, I'm probably taking the under. If you're taking, I would say if you really want to if you're looking for props, don't bet props on Tyreek Hill. He's too volatile, right? His ceiling is extremely high, but his floor is pretty low because he could tweak that ankle. High ankle sprains you can't tape them up. You can't really do anything about them. So if he tweaks it and they pull him, you're kind of screwed, right? So I wouldn't be looking to take any Tyreek Hill props specifically, but from a fantasy perspective, yes, you're starting Tyreek Hill. I do expect a relatively, I would say an average, game from Tyreek Hill. If it gets to be a shootout, which we hope, hopefully it does, then yes, I do think that he can hit those ceilings. But I think that you shouldn't go into this with the expectation of, it's the Cowboys, it's Tyreek Hill, automatic 200 yards. I don't think that's necessarily the case. But I do think that he's going to put up a pretty decent week for you.
Yeah, I think it's ironically in two of my main semifinals that I'm in, I'm going against him in one. I have him in the other, so I'm hoping to thread the needle to get both of them. So, AJ Brown, please, por favor, have a big Sunday for me. But when we're talking about this one, I mean, yeah, you're right. And you mentioned, as far as the prop, also for DFS purposes, he's going to be priced up for this week. It's going to be hard. I don't know. I'd look at other places. I'd probably look at Mike Evans in the other game in Florida. That kind of thing. On this, yeah, it's gonna be hard to pay up for him on the DFS side. But yes, I completely echo everything you said about start your studs. And this guy's going for 2,000 yards. I don't know how much this is going to slow that down, but it's definitely going to be they're going to want to do it. Just a matter of if it's possible. So closing up on the players to talk about. Also on the Indianapolis side, Michael Pittman cleared of a concussion. Cleared the concussion protocol. Looks like he's going to play. And again, now another great matchup because the secondary for the Falcons has gotten beaten this season. AJ Terrell sometimes has shown up, against top receivers. So maybe he sticks with Pittman a few times. But I mean, could we expect kind of a with cleared concussion protocol, a somewhat normal game from Pittman?
Yeah, so Pittman is going to play. They've confirmed. Again, same with, similar with Trevor Lawrence. You do have that re-injury risk. For wide receivers, it tends to be a little lower. It's around 8%. So it's not as big of a concern, but it is still a concern. There's actually something that is interesting with wide receivers after a concussion. There's actually a 36% dip in fantasy points in terms of their average compared to their seasonal average. Now, I think that's because they're not involved in the game plan. Sort of, they're kind of used more of the decoy. I don't really know what that phenomenon comes down to, but that doesn't mean that they can't perform, right? I mean, you can definitely perform, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will. So the thing with Michael Pittman, and you can probably talk to this a little better than I can, they have been scheming him up, man. They have been getting him targets. They've been checking it down to him. They've been sort of intermediate routes. They've been trying to make a concerted effort to get him the ball. Since he wasn't at practice, I'm worried, or I wonder if that's going to continue. So I think temper expectations for Michael Pittman, consider the re-injury risk, all of that baked into one. I'm probably not using him in cash. And I haven't looked at Pittman's price specifically, but I don't really know if he's going to be a great DFS play either necessarily.
Yeah, and our buen amigo Matt Harmon he can't say enough nice things about Shane Steichen and the way he has schemed up this offense. So just like what you were saying about Michael Pittman getting those great looks. I mean, maybe they get him. They're able to work a few packages straight for him, and he's bordering on that start your studs. I mean, he's been fantastic this year. Maybe more of a second round pick than a first round pick, but yeah, he's good. And another one, it's a dome indoor environment. So, things hopefully, it's going to be a great offensive environment for him to get a lot of, get some points for you this week. So, all right, compa, any other guys to kind of look at to think about? I mean, I think we covered the main ones.
No, yeah, I think we covered the main ones. Primarily, I've seen something about Devontae Smith, but I can't find anything about it. So make sure you follow me on Twitter at fbinjurydoc. I'll get something out as soon as I see something. Keenan Allen has been ruled out. So make sure that you're setting your lineups. Jamar Chase has been ruled out. But other than that, that's all I got, man. What do you got for Cultura class?
Well, it's Feliz Navidad. What else could we talk about? Tamales for Christmas. To me, it's one of the great joys of the year. I think at my primo's house on Sunday, my primo Jose he and his wife Stephanie are going to be hosting the 100-some people who are going to be coming from the Torres, Martin, Gutierrez, all the last names, Lopez, all the last names. Favorite tamales. What's your favorite?
Man, I gotta go with the classic, the pork red chili tamales. My mom always used to make them growing up. I gotta go with the classics. Although I know there are some spicy ones. I know you can add some cheese. I know there are some things you can do, but I gotta go with the classics.
You know what? Play the hits on that one. It's the best there is. I do like it when they kind of spice up the salsa in there. So yes, I do like it. Whatever it's cooked in. Sometimes they get a little kick to it. Had a few chicken ones in the past. Yeah, you know what? I started to kind of, it's funny. I started to kind of like the chile con queso. Sometimes they would put them in there. Then lactose intolerance came in, and I said, "Yeah, I'm just gonna stay
brutal."
away from
those. Oh no, dude, I could not live my life if I was lactose intolerant. That's not something that I could do. But yeah, tamales for Christmas. I'm a big fan. I think tamales are one of the few foods that might be better reheated. Recalentado. Oh my gosh, one of the most beautiful things you could experience. If you can do anything this holiday season, try to, again, we've said this before, go to the hood, find a carniceria or a panaderia, find somewhere. You're not going to go to the restaurant. This isn't like a thing you get at like a Mexican restaurant. You got to go to a place that's authentic, where you look in the back and you got your tias and your tios are the ones cooking back there. They're speaking Spanish in the kitchen. The person taking your order speaks very minimal English. Those are the places you're going to want to go if you're going to try tamales, if you're going to try tacos, any of that stuff. You have to go to those places. Maybe take a Mexican friend with you to help you guide through the process, but you should definitely try this. I promise you will not regret it. Yeah, man, I'm excited. Holly and I, my wife and I, we're actually doing our Christmas dinner is going to be Mexican food. We're ordering like a big order, and we're just going to have tacos. We're going to have quesadillas. It's going to be a whole deal. We did that for Thanksgiving too, and I love it. I've basically converted her to being part Mexican at this point.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? You're converted at that point. So absolutely. So I gotta know, where do you stand on sweet tamales?
I don't love them. I can't. I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other. What about you?
I just say no. I tried them when I was a kid, and I just no, just can't do it.
No, like,
Give me the carne. Give me the carne. So
like drugs in the 80s, just say no.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I always ask which one's the sweet one, so I know the sweet pot, so I know which one to avoid. And yeah, it's good times. The chicken ones have grown on me, so those are good. And it's all about, it's all about how they marinate it, how they cook the pork, the chicken, however. Oh, you got me hungry. Best part is one of my tias always makes sure to bring to-go containers so that we could take some home, because like you said, the way to reheat them is on the comal, on the griddle, you could do a frying pan, anything like that. Just do not microwave them. People will say to do that. I did that. I used to do that, but then no, you get a little crispy on the husk. Comes out perfect. So,
absolutely.
And this was a perfect show. Mi amigo. Compa, feliz Navidad. Te deseo un millón de buen deseos. Great wishes, million good wishes to everybody out there. Any closing thoughts?
Feliz Navidad, happy holidays, and good luck in week 16. Let's bring home some championships.
Yeah, buena suerte. Just win. We'll see you next week. Salud. Y otra vez, feliz Navidad, happy holidays.